The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC.
Everyone, get in here! Ready for action! I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is the Angry Chicken.
Grab that snowball, put it in that catapult, and fire it at your opponent, because this is the Angry Chicken and the last episode before actual Winter Veil. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, she's Jocelyn Moffat, he's Willie Dills Gregory, and we're all feeling pretty festive today.
Yeah, I feel like I should have gone and gotten my Santa hat. It's like right there, but I also have new hair this week, so I didn't really want to cover it up.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Although that being said, I'm convinced at this point that my Santa hat is just lost forever. I can't find the darn thing. But
$3 at your local HEB. That's all it'll take. Well, I guess whatever your local thing.
I was like, your local what?
Whatever your local thing.
Okay, but I don't know what that is. Yeah, is that like a dollar store?
No, it's like grocery store.
Oh, okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah,
fair enough. Hey, anyways, we are back. The holidays are approaching at a pace that is making me concerned for the state of the wrapping I still have left to do.
It's the 20th.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't even have presents.
I know.
I'm about to fly home.
Oh no!
I'm flying home in like 3 days. I don't have anything even purchased. I'm terrible.
You're going to be You're going to be very thankful for the 24-hour policy at Walmart very soon, is what I foresee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we're going to be getting on Amazon at some point.
Well, I'm assuming all your loved ones play Hearthstone, right? So you go to your local store that has gift cards, and you just stock up on those Battle.net gift cards, man. That's my torment, right? Because no one in my family plays Blizzard games. I'm it. That's the end. And my brother, but he likes Blizzard games. He'd rather have his PlayStation gift cards. So, darn it, Chase. The one person that could make it easier on me, and I still have to take that extra half of a millisecond to think with my brain and go, oh yeah,
get a box.
He doesn't want a Battle.net card. Oh,
your games come in boxes? It's so weird.
That was one of the coolest things we saw on the tour of Blizzard Campus. Was their library has a massive video game collection, and they're all in the original boxes. So there's a bunch of these old PC games, and it makes me feel like I'm 8 years old again in Office Depot with my mom, because she would go get her reams of paper and whatnot, and I'd go over to the PC game section with all these giant cardboard monolithic boxes with all these games I wanted to get.
Yeah, you don't really get to do that anymore.
No, not unless you really go out of your way, right? Because at this point it's just more convenient to be Steam, Battle.net app, Origin if I want to torture myself.
You know what though? If I were to get a physical gaming thing this year, what I would ask Santa for is the NES Classic.
Oh my God, that thing is so hard to find. It's
it's selling out everywhere.
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars on eBay and Kijiji.
I would be a lot more excited for that if I didn't already have a good amount of old consoles taking up excess space where I live.
Sure. But this one doesn't take up any space. It's a little tiny guy.
I know.
It is. It's teeny tiny. So is the cord for the controller, by the way. It's 3 feet long.
I would hope. I wish it was just a controller that plugged directly into my HDMI port. If that was all it was, I'd be all in. But the fact that there's still a little box I have to worry about, it's oh man, I don't know. I don't need another box in this house.
You heard it here first. Jared hates boxes.
Jared hates boxes.
It's. Let's be honest. It's natural.
You just did move, so
yes.
I guess I get it. Right now you're in you're get these boxes out of here.
I'm having cardboard overload. It's the culling of cardboard at the Weinzierl abode right now. It's bad. It's bad. But hey, we got a lot of Hearthstone stuff to talk about. We also have to would like to remind everyone that our episode today is sponsored by Harrys.com. If you haven't been paying attention a couple times within the last month or two, We have a Harrys.com code for you. The code TAC gets you $5 off your order at checkout over at Harrys.com. They still have their limited edition holiday box set available. At this point, I'm sure you've heard Dills and I talk ad nauseum about how pretty that particular shade of turquoise is, how both of us are considering the ethical ramifications of regifting it for our dads, and also how we kind of don't want to regift it because, damn it, that blade handle is really pretty and I kind of want it for myself.
I just kind of want it.
Yeah.
You can also get them engraved with initials, by the way, which I learned from going on the website, which is super freaking cool if you're looking for a gift idea. I think it's like $5 extra or something like that to get initials engraved on it. So I was just like, that's nice. A gift.
Yeah, and it's 3 characters, so you can have fun with it like old school high scores on arcade cabinets. Just saying.
Just have it say Dick. Sorry.
It's funnier if you spell it because you have to omit a letter. God, Dills. D-I-K. Get with it.
D-I-K.
Or,
yeah. Oh, you're a K guy. I know some guys who are C guys. But
okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm a K guy, too.
I like the K.
It's a big choice which camp you're going to be in.
I agree. I think K is a more fun-looking letter than C. Yeah. And it's not just because my wife Katie spells her name with a K instead of a C, and I just think that's the correct way to spell Katie. But, such as I might be a little biased is what I'm trying to get at. But anyway, again, go to Harrys.com. They make fantastic, affordable razors. Yeah,
affordable raiders,
which you can use to raid the hair on your face or legs or armpits or shoulders or wherever else hair may be sprouting.
Excellent save.
Yeah,
well done.
So go check them out. Don't forget to use the code TAC at checkout and get $5 off of your order. We thank them for their support. Now let's get into it. This week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone.
So on r/custom Hearthstone, Mike Donais got on there and posted basically a job listing, but within that job listing gave us a surprising look into set design calendar, basically how long it takes to build a Hearthstone set, because they're hiring for a game designer. And he got into specifics about what that entails and told us that Hearthstone card design is broken into 2 major categories. First being initial design, where they come up with the flavor and the story for the cards, as well as a solid pass on what every card does and the costs. So initial design will work on a set for approximately 4 months. After that, final design takes on the completed set, and they work on it for an additional 4 months. So thanks to Mike Donais, we can now kind of say, for the most part, a Hearthstone set takes 8 months to design. Also, if you're a designer, go apply for this job. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, so they said they're looking for a final designer. Mm-hmm. So the second 4 months guy. And I love that part of the qualifications for this job is you got to hit legend easily.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be able to hit legend pretty easily.
You have to understand the high-level play because part of the final pass is balance, right? So you have to know how the cards are going to impact the meta. So it makes sense that they're missing a person because if they had a full team, then patches wouldn't have happened.
Oh, smack talk.
Oh. They're like, how did we? Okay, we need one more guy to make sure patches doesn't come out next time.
Yeah.
It's just you just need that one extra eye,
Yeah.
And not with an eye patch.
Frustrating card is the most frustrating card not only to play against but also to have in your deck, because when you draw Patch, it's the only card where you draw him, you're like, oh man, like now I lose the game. I think.
No, you don't. Like, you don't actually. A lot of times you don't actually lose that game though. Is the thing.
Well, no, but it's it can be the game losing card that you drew in the aggro like mirror match.
It all comes.
I drew my patches and he didn't. I lost the game.
I don't want to get back into the patch attack, which is basically all of last week's episode, but it does kind of come back to your ye old Dills' opinion of Knife Juggler, right? Like when a Knife Juggle goes off, somebody is angry.
Someone's upset.
One of the 2 players is angry, and the same thing kind of happens for patches, right? Like somebody's angry when patches is involved, and it can
when
be
hits the board.
Either
or hits the hand.
Yeah.
But no, it's really cool that Donais is like actually out there on, because we've seen a lot come out of Ben Brode, right? And as far as like actually being like on Reddit and responding to things, I haven't seen that much Donais, so this is really cool to see him. You know, he is not. It's not like he's like hiding in a cave somewhere. You know, he definitely responds to people. I've seen him like be in Twitch chats before and stuff like that. But like him just like making a post, pretty cool. I like this.
Yeah, and I like that it was in like custom Hearthstone, like kind of throwing some respect their way, which I really liked.
Well, that's a really cool subreddit. I don't know if you guys go there very often, but it's just people making Hearthstone cards.
Yeah, not very often because it's. I mean, personally, it's just like you could be there forever because it's so active. There's cards being made up constantly, multiple times every day. So it's like, well, when do I stop reading this? Because I kind of need to get other things done.
I feel like this subreddit is actually my source of frustration during a card release because it's like they're so good at making cards. People pull from there and then like put them on Twitter and they're like, oh, wouldn't this be a great card? But they're usually not like very explicit about the fact that it's a custom card, not a real card. Yeah. And then so I'm just like, I get all excited and then I'm like, damn it. This is not from the new set, people. No posting custom cards during a drip feed. It's just mean.
I get that. Fair enough. But no, it is a really cool subreddit. If you're not checking it out, you should, because it's pretty sweet. And yeah, good on Donais for turning what could have been a boring job post into something interesting and newsworthy. Because we're about to hit, Christmas weekend. It's about to get real quiet on the Blizzard front. Because
So I'd heard somewhere. And not to bring patches back up, I think just
oh damn it, does.
In a way that pertains to this, I had heard somewhere that patches originally was a 2-1.
Oh Jesus!
What?
That you would get free, yeah. So thank God for these final designers who at least were like, "Yo, what?
Yeah,
2 is too much.
Your job is very important, final designers, and we love you. And hopefully they find a really quality one because." Yeah, the game balance is like one of the most important things to I think a lot of players. Like the people who just play Hearthstone for fun, they don't mind Yogg Saron. But then there are the people who want to play a legitimate card game as well as a super fun one. And so Yogg kills himself, goes away. Good, thanks. Fix him. Good job, final designers. I imagine like that's the guys like Reels, right?
I would think so.
XR and stuff are the guys who kind of do that, and then it's guys like Brode who just have like these big picture ideas with the initial set.
I would want to be an initial designer.
I probably would too, to be honest, because I just want to come up with some crazy stuff and then be like, here, now make it work.
You make it a thing.
Now ruin my fun. No. I don't even work there, and I'm already throwing shade on a hypothetical team I may never work with. But no, it's really cool. I did not know it worked that way. So I always like getting peeks behind the Team 5 curtains to see what they're doing. So very cool. Make more job postings this interesting, Team 5, please. Also over the weekend we had SeatStory Cup VI, which is always a fun time to watch, and we got to see a ton of Mean Streets play by a lot of pros, which was also fantastic. It did.
Yeah, I mean, this set really did shake up the tournament meta quite a bit, right? A lot of decks that we are so used to seeing a lot of in tournaments were just not represented, right? So there was like no tempo mages, no control warriors. Really, I think there was like one maybe. And then everyone was talking about how weird it was that he had a control warrior. It was who was it? Oh, Sifka, I think, had that. But it was kind of interesting to see a lot of new and interesting decks. And Maz had a Kun Malagos Druid we'll talk a little bit about later. And tons of pirates, though, of course, which I think we all expected. But just really, really cool to see kind of the first big tournament after the set release and how varied the meta was. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, there were a lot of pirates, but it wasn't all pirates, right? Like we saw a lot of slow matchups as well because a lot of druids still got brought.
Yeah.
There was a ton of Reno play. The druid Reno matchups I thought were a blast to watch.
Well, I think a lot of people were just banned. Like a lot of people's strategy seemed to be ban Reno Lock, right?
Yeah.
Because Reno Lock was friggin' just so strong. So there's like kind of two major strategies. One was like ban Shaman, because the aggro Shaman is just really tough on some lineups. The other was to ban the Reno Lock, and weirdly enough, Savit's never had his Reno Lock banned and was just crushing everybody with it.
Which was very fun to watch.
Yeah, I was a little bit curious about that because he was the guy who played for like 8 hours at rank 1 with Reno Lock, and everyone was like, "Yeah, I'll just let him play it." Like, he's too good at that deck. I would always ban that. But the other kind of like surprising thing I thought was how good Rogue did. Tons and tons of the Miracle with questing, without questing, all sorts of stuff. Rogue is like, everybody was wrong about Rogue. Rogue is in a super good spot right now.
It really is. So I was on 12 Days of Christmas on Thursday.
That's right.
Thursday, yes,
I believe so.
Yeah, so we started. We just played we dual streamed or like dual piloted Hearthstone decks for like 3 straight hours, and you talked me in. You talked me in like to building the Miracle Rogue, and well, we went up 3 ranks.
Yeah.
And I'm still playing it, and I'm still really enjoying it. My God, learning curve, because Miracle. If you're not familiar with this show, if you haven't listened to the Angry Chicken from pretty much the beginning, Miracle is an archetype I have avoided like the plague because it's never clicked with me.
It's complex.
It's tricky,
every turn, yeah. Because the key is that every turn changes as it's being played out, right? So, based on what you draw, you decide to do different things. But like there were some really interesting conversations that we had on that stream. Where, it's like the player who doesn't play a lot of Miracle thinks, well, I'll just hold this coin or I'll hold this prep. And a lot of Miracle players are just like, no, just cycle it. Like, just keep drawing into your deck. You got to find your damage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird that it wasn't all those Rogue cards like that affected the Rogue class. It was patches and a couple of pirates.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's all they needed. Like, they were just like, oh, what's Rogue's problem? It's just the early game. That was the problem for Rogue forever, was just that you're always kind of playing from behind.
Well, specifically Miracle Rogue, too.
Yeah,
right?
specifically, yes, exactly.
Like, they had trouble getting started of kind of, digging in.
Yeah, you needed to have, like, backstabs and SIs, or else you just were behind from the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. And then your AoE is Fan of Knives. So the AoE doesn't kill anything most of the time. And, it's just like a cycle card. Now you just put a few pirates in, and suddenly you got some early game. And once you get to turn 5 or 6, you might have the board already. Like, you might just be able to run away with the game at that point. So
yeah,
it's in a really, really good spot right now, just with a couple of just the small-time Buccaneer patches and a dagger. That's all they really needed.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really realized how powerful Pirate early game was going to be. So then when we were discussing how good Rogue was going to be, or actually how bad Rogue was going to be before the expansion hit, we were thinking, okay, well, they didn't get much Jade. Like, look at Druids and their Jade. They've got so much, and Rogue's got so little, and it's just not going to be powerful. And I think that was just the problem, is we didn't kind of realize how strong that early game was going to be. So we were looking at it through Jade-colored glasses, and it looked pretty crappy, but turns out not, actually.
Yeah, the Shuriken and the little dude, the little Death Rattly dude,
mm-hmm.
They just don't cut it. Like, there's not enough. Maybe in another set, if they continue to make Jade cards, that could be a thing. I'm not sure if I want to see them continue to make Jade cards, though, to be honest, because the Druid is... Like, we did see the Druid at the tournament, right? And
mm-hmm.
I expected more of it, but I think it's fine that there was that amount of it, because I think everybody knew there was going to be a lot of pirates. But in a slow meta, the Jade is the king, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to see more of those. Jade.
I don't think we will. It's so Jade Lotus themed, like it's very specific to Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, that sure. I think it'll be very similar to Joust, where like that was that mechanic from that expansion. I don't think we're going to see much more of any of the, probably no more potions, probably no more Jade stuff, no more buff in your hand, Goonie things. Like, that's this expansion. Next expansion will be something different.
I agree. I don't think we'll see any more of it. It's kind of like this set's Joust or whatever, right? Like, it's never going to come back.
Yeah.
I have nothing to add because I 100% agree. My God, the three of us agree on something. There's something that doesn't happen all that often. I will say, though, before we move on from SeatStory Cup, that if you missed it, you owe it to yourself to watch the finals. These finals between Orange and Show were incredible. And if nothing else, watch the final game. Start at the beginning so you can listen to Reynad throw salt all over this and call it over. And watch it change who's going to win 3 or 4 times during the course of that final game. It's amazing.
SeatStory Cup really is like the best tournament every year.
Yeah.
It's so fun to watch because everyone's just in a super relaxed mood. The casters keep swapping in and out. They get all the guys there, and there's a lot of matchups that you wanted to see. We saw Raynad versus Amaz at this tournament. It was super sweet. So definitely, go back and watch. I was like sad when I was out doing stuff and not watching SeatStory Cup, right? And usually, like I'll come in and out. I don't really mind. I don't care if I'm missing some stuff. I just want to kind of catch, like you said, the finals. But with this one, I just kind of wanted to watch the whole thing. I just kind of wanted to have it on.
It was fun to have on in the background. Yeah, because, and I mean, they did things like they did a Secret Santa. So there were like some really nice gifts, but then like some super jokey, memey kind of gifts. And it was really fun to see them just kind of all hanging out and interacting with each other on top of, some really high level Hearthstone. So yeah, I agree.
Hafu playing a tournament.
We did. We saw Hafu and she was awesome. I was so disappointed because I watched her first match and she won, and I was like, yeah, oh my god. And then she, Savitz took her down, and then she had to play in the kind of bubble match, and she lost that too. And I was just like, oh, you looked so good.
Everyone
in the
there
first
was
one.
Really good. So
yeah, I really wanted her to go forward.
But I think she played really well.
She did play very well. Yeah.
I don't think she could feel bad about her performance at all.
Yeah, her interviews afterwards are so fun because, like, if you guys have ever watched her stream, she's like, okay, well, this is the play, but oh, no, wait, maybe this thing. Oh, wait, is that actually optimal? And she just has this really fun way of talking. And her interviews afterwards were exactly the same. And just like, because the casters were asking her questions about specific, and she's like, no, that was the right play. Was it the right play? Oh, I don't know if it was the right play. Now I'm thinking it wasn't the right play. It's just like, okay, yeah, you're actually really fun to watch. Like, I need to see you in more constructed, please.
It's awesome.
Maybe this will Kickstarter because she just doesn't play it. Like,
no,
obviously can, but she just chooses not to.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on and talk about the Kun Combo Druid that you both have been alluding to all episode. But just before we do that, let's thank our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC for supporting the show. That is the best place to go and support us. If you like the Angry Chicken, if you like Dills, Jocelyn, and if you can tolerate me, go check it out. On this episode, thank you to Daniel R., Jason D., Keith Q., David C., Zach O., Joseph K., Luke E., and Raph, a.k.a. QT Lessa. Thank you very much for supporting the Angry Chicken, and hope you all have a good holiday. Don't overdo it on the eggnog. A lot of dairy. Be very careful. Now, let's talk about the Kun Combo Druid.
Hit it very hard.
Wanna blow something up? Time to pay!
All right, so the deck list we're looking at specifically today is from icyveins.com. If you want to follow along, we've also got a link in the show notes. And if you're watching live, I'm sure Jocelyn's going to drop a link in there any second now. So who's taking point on this? Because both Jocelyn and Dills, I know you both have been playing this quite a bit. Who would like to start?
Oh, Dills. 100%.
Okay.
Always Dills.
Okay, well, we have the Malagos list up currently, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So there's like two ways to kind of build this, and one is the Cthulhu version, but the other is the Malagos version. And the Malagos Druid is, we know, a strong archetype, right? Like we've seen it. It's been around. It's you have all this draw, you have strong mid-range minions, and then you have a big bursty finish, right? Mm-hmm. Your biggest problem really is big board removal.
It's getting there, really.
Exactly, yeah. So what this deck kind of does for you is that it's got all of those things that made Druid really strong, and then it's got this one thing now where not only can you play Malagos like after a couple of Thaurissan ticks or something like that and then burst them down with spells, but you can also make a 7/7, a 5/5, a 4/12, and then like swipe something, right? Like you can do all of that now in one turn at some point.
Yep.
And that is just game winning. I mean, even if you don't have a full combo to burst them and OTK them, you can just play all those bombs and pass the turn. And oftentimes they will not be able to deal with that, right? Like they'll have to kill the Malagos, the Kun, and the Aviana. And how many decks can actually do that, right? So.
Well, yeah, because you're basically dropping, in some cases, like 40 or 50 mana worth of stuff in one turn.
Yeah, you're playing an insane amount of mana in one turn. It's really disgusting. And it's really cool. I just kind of want to point out, like, Aviana was, like, just gone. Like, Aviana was just a joke card. You would see it sometimes in Astral Communion decks or whatever, where people just kind of memeing the ladder and, oh, I'll play this Astral deck and put Aviana in it. But as soon as they printed this Kun card, it was like, yo, this card is really good now. Like, we've got a combo here. So props to Blizzard on printing this card. It's really awesome.
Mm-hmm. And the problem with Aviana always was, like, even if you played her on turn 10, you could play her and then one other thing, and then usually she was such a target for removal, like you had to get that off the board. So
that was all you'd ever get out of her, yeah.
Yeah, you would usually get one other minion, and the thing is now the one other minion that you can play allows you to play possibly 10 other minions then. Like, and especially if you've done
you can only
something
play 5 more because you can only fit 7 on the board. But yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like
10
you've got
more mana worth of stuff.
Yeah, 10 more mana worth of stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times, too, like the other thing you can do with this combo, like if you don't have Malagos, I've done this plenty of times. Aviana, Kun, refresh my mana, play Gadget Zan, cycle my entire deck, right? Like, you know, and you've still got things like Innervate, Living Roots, Raven Idol, Wild Growth, like so many ways to cycle at that point. So it's just all about kind of lasting to this point, ramping up a little bit, and then just going off on people's faces. And it's really, really fun.
Well, that's key, right? That whole lasting to this point, like
that is the key. I mean, obviously, in a pirate meta, sometimes that can be a little bit rough. So the biggest weakness of the deck, I think, is for sure shamans, because they flood the board with minions that are a little bit tough to kill. Swipe doesn't kill like feral spirits and stuff. So there's times where it can be a little rough trying to come back. Like Swipe is not that great at clearing boards. Like as good of a card as it is, you know, you kill one thing and then you hope to kill some other stuff, right?
Yeah, it's nice when you have
pair it with like Living Roots. So
yeah, it's nice when you have an Azure Drake on board, but how often does that really happen?
Yeah, how often do you have the mana to play an Azure Drake and then a Swipe too? It's like that's
and if you don't, how often does the Azure Drake live? I mean, you're playing against Priest, awesome, but most other classes have ways to deal with Azure Drake easily.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, that is definitely the weakness, but a deck that has this strong of a turn in the late game should not also have a really strong early game.
Right.
I think. So it's fine that it has a weakness, because otherwise this deck would oppress the ladder, I think, a little bit too much. Like, if this deck could put some pirates in, like, I would not be happy about that.
Yeah, if the Druid hero power counted as a weapon, then...
Jeez. Yeah, screw that. But then there's another version of this, and I think people immediately saw that this combo was crazy. And so the other version of this is the Cthulhu Druid deck. And I think that's the one you've been playing more of, Jocelyn, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I've been playing, because my big problem was exactly what we just talked about, was living to the late game. And I found that when you play the Cthulhu version, you have the Cthulhu minions that actually help you fight back on board a little bit more than just strictly all the spells, because the Malagos version isn't running Yogg or anything like that. So it was actually... a lot better, I found, to actually have some board presence throughout the early game. So, I mean, I still got rolled over a couple times by like a paladin who was just like, "Oh, you swiped away all my 1 health minions? Well, here's a board full of 1 health minions again. There's only so many swipes." Damn you, paladin.
Yeah, but I mean, you have in this deck, you have like Doomsayers, Loot Hoarders. Like, you do have some early game and some cards that they'll have to deal with, and then of course Disciple of Cthulhu, dealing the 2 damage. It's one more little removal guy. Cthulhu's Chosen, a 4/2 with a Divine Shield. Like, these are really strong minions in the mid game. So,
well, and then you've got stuff too, like Twin Emperor, and especially if you can get that comboed with Bran potentially. Just like there's a lot of I found a lot more choices to help you actually have a bit of a board presence. So then it's not even necessarily about getting your big huge combo turn off, but just having the board presence usually is enough to get your opponent down. And then you can do things on turn 10, like play Aviana, and then instead of refreshing your mana, you could take the 10 armor, and then just those 2 minions on the board is enough to finish off your opponent before they can finish you in those really, really aggressive matchups. So it's like you have the 2 different options instead of feeling like you have to do this big flood the board.
Yeah, it has a
Aviana
secondary win condition.
Yeah,
but it also,
which is like survivability because of the taunts.
The
and the
combo
armor.
is literally an OTK though. It is
yes.
Like you Aviana, you Kun, you refresh your mana, you Bran, play any other Cthulhu buffing cards you have, and then you play Cthulhu and he goes off twice, right?
Yeah.
And so there were people building this. There were people building this in like a different way, and I actually built this a little bit differently as well, where I built it as just a pure combo deck, right? So all I had in the deck was draw, removal, and then my combo pieces, which were Aviana Kun, 2 Dark Arakoa, which were my only Cthulhu cards, and then Cthulhu and Bran. And the idea, and that's a lot of cards in a combo, but it was surprising how often you could get there when you also just put in so much draw and like the gadget sands and stuff to do big cycling miracle turns to get into that combo.
Yeah, well, Lunar
Vision. This version I like better because it's just, here, play Cthulhu cards. You can maybe just win without the combo because Cthulhu is going to be like a 14-14. And you can win like the old school Cthulhu Druids one, or you can burst them for like 80. So,
yeah, I mean, I've really liked the addition of Lunar Visions in this deck just because it was where you're playing so many more Cthulhu minions, the chances of you pulling minions then goes up. So when you can get like a 1-mana Disciple of Cthulhu or something, it's that extra little piece of removal, plus it's buffing your Cthulhu, plus it's cheaper. Like it's so great having all those pieces come together, and it lets you like play those cards. Like you can Lunar Vision, and then you can wait until later on to nourish and draw 3 cards. So it gives you like more options to refill your hand and to fish for those combo pieces. So I really like the addition of it. I think that it helps me get through my deck. Yeah.
I think honestly though, the real reason you see it in this version is it's just more ways to draw, right? Like it draws 2 cards, right? And a lot of times like all your other draw options that like as Druid, your other draw options are essentially like Loot Hoarder, and you're like, that cycles 1 card and it's kind of a weak card. And that's pretty much all I have outside of Nourish. And Wrath, right?
I didn't have Loot Hoarder in my version,
in your build of it,
and I'm
the
trying
reason
to remember
I just want all the draw, right? Like I just want to, because if I have a combo that requires essentially 5 cards, I better draw into it, right? So I need to be drawing through my deck as fast as humanly possible, and Lunar Visions is a way to draw 2 cards. Like even without the discount, it's like the only other way that Druid has now, because Ancient of Lore has been nerfed, right? Like if that was still a thing, it would be playing that instead of Lunar Visions. I guarantee you that. But it's like the mana discount is nice when it happens, but I think
it doesn't have to
another way to draw 2
worth,
cards is like, yes, please, I'll take that. I think it's totally worth it in this deck. I still think Lunar Visions is a pretty bad card in most versions of I don't think you'd see it in the Malagos version because you're running more spells, but in this version you're running so many more minions, right? So.
So I have to ask for the frugal players out there, or players who have stayed away from Druid for a while. I'm totally not asking for myself, guys. It's likely you have Brand Bronzebeard. It's likely you have Cthulhu. If you ever built a Cthulhu deck, it's likely you spent the dust on Twin Emperor. It's also very likely that a lot of players don't have Aviana because she hasn't had a place really until now. And Kun is relatively new. Is it, if you're Druid inclined, because let's just put that assumption out there, if you like playing Druid, do you think it's worth the amount of dust to go and get yourself an Aviana and a Kun to play this deck?
So I often don't recommend to players to craft class legendaries because, if you're missing other stuff, you probably want the neutral legendaries that you can use in multiple decks. But if you want a super fun deck to play, this is a super fun deck. I mean, going off and double Cthulhuing on people is just really entertaining. So
for you,
I would think it's worth it if that's your style. If that's your jam, then yeah, go for it. But it's not going to be, I don't think this is ever going to be like a meta-defining deck. I don't think it's going to be a tier 1 deck. It's not going to be a deck you're going to want to like grind to legend, because the game's going to take forever and you'll probably struggle against aggro. So, it's just kind of one of those things. Like, do you like having fun? Then it's worth it.
Okay.
Well, and I think like this is also a fun deck that works. There's a lot of, there's a lot of fun decks out there that are, themed and they're fun to play, but you're not really going to make any traction on ladder. And I played this today, and I think I ended up playing like 25 games with it because it was just, I was having so much fun. There is nothing more satisfying that I've found in the game lately than going down to like 5 health And then because you've just had like this guy just going total aggro on your face, and then all of a sudden just going, oh, have my double Cthulhu, boom, like here's my Aviana Kun, all these other big minions, and double Cthulhu. So suck it.
No, I had many games like that too, where I was like, oh, he didn't kill me this turn. Well, I have lethal because this is 64 damage.
64 damage.
You know what I mean? It's like, yep. I've seen people do where they're running the single youthful brewmaster in the deck. So you Bran,
and then you
Cthulhu, and then you brew the Cthulhu back, and then you Cthulhu again. But usually you don't need it. If you're double Branning, or if you're double Cthulhuing already, then you're probably
You could
fine.
quadruple Cthulhu.
That's true. You get quad Cthulhu. What's better than 2 Cthulhuns?
Cthulhu.
4 Cthulhuns.
Yep.
Is that a Q-thune?
Yes,
Is that how we're shortening it?
Q-thune.
Just a Q-thune? All right, good to know.
But, yeah, super fun deck. But I'm hesitant to recommend people spend their dust on these cards because they are only going to work in this deck, right?
It seems
and you need the Cthulhu, and you need
it seems like if you haven't picked up Malagos by now, it's probably worth it because he just keeps coming back.
Yeah, Malagos is he's got some legs. I'm surprised still that we've never really seen a true Malagos mage yet, but maybe one day.
It seems so obvious, right? Like, oh, the magic dragon goes with the really heavy magic glass.
You saw Malagos a little bit for a while in Freeze Mage, but it's just too heavy of a card, and they don't have enough. Like, you have to get the Thaurissan ticks off on your Frostbolts and your Ice Lances, right? That's the only way.
That's the deck we always come back to say, like, you want to see a deck where it's hard to find space for any new card? That's it.
Yeah.
By the way, there were some really awesome Freeze Mage matches at that SeatStory Cup. Reynad in a mirror match against... Who was it? I can't remember who he played against, but it might have been Tice. But it was like a beautifully played match, or maybe it was Osaka, but like that where they like it was all about who's popping the blocks first and which life total can I am I at the right life total. It was amazing. Freeze Mage I think is like one of those decks like I hope kind of exists in some form, but I don't know.
I'd be okay if we made it esports only.
Sure. I hate when I queue into it. I'm like, oh man.
It is. I think it's just now sitting on the throne of the most hated deck for me to go up against. Like when I see it, when I realize it's Freeze Mage, I'm just like, oh god, why? I don't want to play this.
Yeah.
This is an entirely different game right now, and I don't like it. But such is life. It is. I'm with you, Dill. It's like. I think I'd rather have it exist.
It's a quality deck to have, right?
Yeah.
Because it does things like it's.
You heard it here first. A deck does things.
Because without it, like there would be like mid-range would maybe oppress things, right?
No, you're absolutely right.
So you always have to consider it.
It keeps certain things in check by existing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
This deck, I don't think I've played that matchup. Did you play this matchup against the Freeze Mage with the Cthulhu? No,
I did not see.
I wonder how that would go.
Mages.
I want to see.
I actually didn't see very many other druids. I think I only went up against 2 other druids. Mostly it was
lots of shaman.
Yeah, shaman, rogue, and warrior. Yeah. Oh, and one poor hunter. And I was like, oh, buddy. Oh,
That's
you're doing
so
it wrong.
He's playing hunter.
It's like, even I'm not playing hunter right now, so that's saying something.
On the bright side, at least the emote is like the most true it's ever been. He really does hunt alone because that's the only hunter out there right now. In my experience, anyway. So, well, all right.
Speaking of emotes, I find that the Happy Feast of Wintervale, like they thought Sori was trolly. Happy Feast of Wintervale is so much worse.
Yeah, no, I like to hit him with the bonds right before I double Cthulhu him. So you throw that Happy Feast of Wintervale out there, and then you shoot him in the face many, many times.
You are the murderous Grinch.
But look, we're in the middle. We're in the thick of the 12 Dills of Christmas. So I got to hit him with the Happy Feast of Wintervale as often as I can. Right.
Well, right now
I'm just being festive.
You're being festive at the beginning. At the end, you are no longer being festive. You're just being.
No, I'm sending him off with a hearty farewell. Right?
Well, let's put it this way, Jocelyn. Would you rather, around the holidays, have someone preemptively well played you before they kill you, or preemptively season's greetings you, basically?
I still prefer well played, because then I could be like, well, maybe they mean well played.
They didn't. They never do. You were the only person, Jocelyn.
Yeah.
I'd like to think the best of people, but you just can't think the best of people when they're happy feast of winter.
Not in video games, no.
No. They didn't mean it. They're being jerks. I'd rather have it be holiday themed, personally. But
Magooch has a good plan. You got to brand Cthulhu, and then you got to double Happy Feast of Wintervale because it goes off twice. Yeah.
So it's an emote is a battle cry in this scenario?
Sure.
Yes.
Well,
It's your battle cry as your
Mayor
character.
Noggenfogger randomizes your emotes as well. So why should Brand should double your emotes, right?
I didn't know that. He does that?
Yeah, doesn't matter what you pick, it'll do whatever. It'll do some other thing.
That's really cool. I did
awesome.
I did not know that.
It's a nice little extra flavor for that card.
That's badass. Well, awesome. Well, let's get a little crazy with some crazy game stories.
Has the whole world gone crazy?
You're in trouble now.
You got it!
You can send your crazy game stories to tacpodcast@gmail.com. Chewy HS writes in, will you be my co-pilot, Chewy, please? I've always wanted one. Confused Priest versus Pirate Shaman. It's turn 6, and I'm already at 4 health. Yeah, okay.
Sounds about right.
It's supposed to be a crazy game story, not run-of-the-mill game story, okay? He's got a board literally full of minions, including a taunt totem, and all I have is a double power word shielded 4/11 injured Blade Master and 6 mana. What to do? Well, Divine Spirit for 2, creating a 4/44 injured Blade Master, and with last 2 mana, you guessed it, folks, I confuse everything, destroying the poor little taunt totem and smashing face for the most satisfying Hearthstone win of my life. Love you guys. Love the show. Confused Priest for the win.
Confused. Yeah.
Confuse. Yeah, I forgot about the side benefit of Confuse over Inner Fire is the fact that it'll kill the taunt totem. So you get to actually hit face.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Also, it actually confuses your opponent when they see it. It doesn't click.
Yeah.
Because when was the last time you saw a Confused Priest? So
I feel like Confused Priest could be a viable thing right now, kind of, because Priest has a couple more awesome tools, right? Mm-hmm. The Talon Priest is fantastic for Confused Priest because it's more ways to give you your stuff health. So, hey, maybe there's something out there. And also, you've got that new Silence guy. Silence their taunt. Mm-hmm. Confuse. Hit him in the face.
I think
might be worth revisiting our Confuzzled deck at some point.
I think so.
I think so as well. Time to dust it off. You go into your old barn garage, like it's Fast and the Furious, and you open the door and you take the tarp off, and you just look at it, and in a Vin Diesel voice you go, "One last ride," which is a terrible Vin Diesel impression, but
I enjoyed it.
It's crazy game stories. Cut me some slack. So thank you for that, Chewy. Again, send your emails to techpodcast@gmail.com, whether it's a story or an email, because we're about to take more of them.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, did you get my message?
Yep.
Oh.
Hello, brother.
Our first and second email today come to us from Hachikumo, who writes in and says, I have an idea for a balanced snowflake card. Wait, what the hell is a balanced snowflake card?
The snowflake cards that we talked about, it was before the expansion released, I think.
Oh,
and it was
where
like
you could
pick one card and it would be your special snowflake card, and you got to have it so it wouldn't rotate out. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But everyone got to pick it. Yeah.
This idea kind of struck a nerve with some people. A lot of people were talking about it in the Reddit, and so yeah, kind of cool.
It would be so broken. Anyways, Hachikumo continues and says, the idea is that you build a deck of 31 cards, but you choose 2 of those cards and merge them into the snowflake card, which I'm assuming is the 31st card in the deck, essentially. The merging is exactly as it is stated. Add the mana costs together, and you choose the order of the 2 cards. For example, you can now have a card that reads 2 mana, 1/5 cleric, draw a card. Okay.
So it's the same as a cleric and a power word shield, but in one card, so you don't have to try to draw into the combo. Just when you have that card, you can do both things.
Okay. All right. Or 4 mana, summon 2 loot hoarders. Which wouldn't they be a 4/2 also?
Well, no, because the mana cost stays the same. It's basically like it gets rid of the
2/2 ones that draw cards.
Yeah, so it would be you're getting rid of the requirement of drawing both the cards.
Gotcha.
So just when you draw the one
okay.
thing, for the same mana cost, you can do the same thing, but you just don't have to have two different cards. It's your special snowflake card.
Okay, in the case of that though, then this is where the first red flag is that that's a spell, not a minion any longer. But how does the game know to do that?
How does the game know how to do what?
I mean, you're taking two minions, and it should at the end you should have technically a minion card, but there's no way you do this without a spell.
Yeah, you turn the card into a spell.
Turn the card into a spell. Yeah.
It's just a spell. It's like a Kazakus potion.
Right? Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking
creating a Kazakus potion before the game starts, and then you're saying, I put this one in my deck.
I just don't.
I mean, here's the okay. It's a cool idea. It's very cool. Will we ever see it? Hell no. It's never gonna happen. There are some issues.
Well, apparently there's some issues with Dill's connection.
I was going to say, did he just sell it for you too?
Yes.
There are some issues.
That or Dills is winning the mannequin challenge right now. Just absolutely winning it. Well, while Dills hopefully returns, let's finish Hachikuma's thought. He said, there would be a small set of invalid combinations, but I think overall this design gives players a lot of interesting deck ideas. You can even have cards with high casting costs that requires Emperor or Prep. This was inspired by the custom potions by Kazakus. What do you guys think? I really want Dills back for this. He was in the middle of a thought.
I think it could be really cool. I like the idea. I obviously am a big fan of the special snowflake card idea in whatever way, shape, or form it takes. And I like the idea of Kazakus and taking more of that and putting it into the game somehow. I mean, the other way you could do it would be like with a spell, like a 0 mana or 1 mana spell right off the top of the game, where like you get to discover 2 cards and you can put them together or something like that. And it's not just spell effects, but it's like existing cards in the game.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dills, are you back now?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So
again,
you had issues, and then
it'll never happen ever because people will just be like, okay, well, I'm going to put a Frostbolt and an Icelands together, and I'm just going to shoot you for 7 damage, and then you have a card that essentially all this would enable like tons and tons of like OTK type things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I'm gonna put 2 fireballs together, and for 8 mana I'm gonna shoot you for 12. And you're like, but wait a minute, we have a 10 mana spell that does 10 damage. Like that, what?
There would be too many broken combinations. I will say this, Dajikuma. The cool thing about I think where we are in Hearthstone right now is I don't think it's impossible that we might see something similar to this, but with a lot more restrictions. At some point.
You could see this. I don't think you can just say, okay, take any 2 cards in the game and put them together, and then have that be okay. But I was playing Hex last night on stream, and that has a mechanic called Empower, right? Where certain cards you can.
I thought you meant like you were playing the card Hex, and then I was like.
No. I was playing a game. There's a game called Hex.
Yeah. Okay.
Hex is
I'm on board now.
Yeah, it's a TCG. You can actually trade cards in it. It's very much like Magic. Like a lot of you guys should really try it out. Actually, it's really fun. But it's similar to Magic, but it has a much better online client, right? Like a way better online.
That would be hard.
That's not hard to accomplish.
No, it's true, but it's actually good on as a video game. But yeah, so Empower basically, I can double the spell's cost and then double its effect, right? And only certain cards have this because it's an effect on the card. So I can either play it, for 4 mana and it does this, or if it's later in the game, I can say, okay, I click Empower on it, and it becomes an 8 mana card that does twice of the effect, which, so if it summons like a 3/4, now it's summoning a 6/8, right? And it's a really cool thing. So I could definitely see at some point them adding effects like that. Like Magic has a kicker effect, right? You can pay a kicker cost, and your card does like an extra effect, or it's more powerful than if you don't pay that. So I could definitely see them doing something like that with Hearthstone, where they print some cards that say, pay 4 mana, or you pay 8 mana and it does way more things, right? So I mean, I could see something like that happening, but
so like choose one, but for your mana cost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you can decide how much mana to spend on the card and how powerful the card is, right? but you'd have to control that to a certain extent, right? So that's why I could see that being on a card. So not just here, you guys go take any 2 cards you want and become game designers, everybody, and put them together. You know, I definitely don't think we'd ever see that. Very fun idea, though. I like thinking about it because you can think about all sorts of. Maybe a tavern brawl could do this, right?
Oh, that would be fun.
That'd be good. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. But yeah, I don't know. After like Tri-Class cards and Kazakus, I feel like anything's technically possible. Although sometimes we might just get Weasel and it just won't make any sense or work how it should. So who knows? Dills, part 2 from Hachikumo.
Hachikumo has a part 2. All right. So part 2.
There were actually 3 parts, but the third part was very WoW oriented. So I'm stealing it for Azeroth.
So part 2. What if arena drafts come with 5 reroll tokens? That means when you're drafting, you can press a button to reroll the 3 cards within the same rarity. Unused tokens improve your arena award slightly once you are done with the run. Is this an old idea that has been discussed? Would it help the experience? Yeah, I think that could be kind of cool.
It would
a couple of mulligans when you get really bad picks. Like all the decks, though. So there's always like an issue, right? There's always going to be a give and take when it comes to these kind of cool ideas. And we've talked in the past too, Garrett, where it's like, here, just give me like the 90 cards, right? And then just let me build my deck. That's really cool because everyone could then like, you know, you could see, oh my God, I have a lot of dragon synergy. Like I can build that. Whereas currently, early on, you might get offered some dragon stuff, and then by turn 25, you're like, man, that would have been really good because I got offered lots of dragons, but I didn't pick it because I didn't have dragons.
Yeah,
right?
because of the nature of the way a Hearthstone arena draft functions, it doesn't reward that type of strategic thinking. It punishes
trying to build a certain
synergies.
type of deck. You just have to build like a mid-range strong deck, right? But the cool thing is, lots more synergies. The negative thing is that suddenly arena starts to play out like everybody has a pretty strong deck, right? And so like your games become a little bit more homogenized in a way. Like suddenly all the decks are like really good and there's not the variety that you kind of see now where every deck is kind of crazy and wild, right?
Yeah. Well,
so there's a drawback, but it's not. I think it's still worth.
But with that drawback, would that still apply to having reroll tokens? Like if you just got to basically
be slightly
reroll.
Strong. Yeah.
But that not as strong though if you could pick from the 90 cards, right? Because you would only have a certain number of rerolls. Yeah.
Definitely not as strong as that. But like when they took away some of the bad cards from classes, everybody kind of moved up a slight bit in power level. If you were able to like re-roll 3 bad choices, all decks would move up again in power level. So all the like right now it's even kind of exists in arena where it feels almost like there's only one way to play it, right? Which is play a 2-drop into a 3-drop into a 4-drop into a 5-drop, and if I don't do that, I lose because the other guy's doing that, right? And so this would make that even easier to accomplish, right? So I prefer, honestly, the 90 cards thing over something like this because then you might see variety at least. Like, oh, this guy's playing pirates. This guy's playing dragons. This guy's playing, aggro, control, whatever. Whereas this, it would like just take what you currently see and just make all the decks like slightly better, right?
I feel, and this is coming from I don't really play arena hardly ever, but I feel like I would like just an overall boost in power level a little bit more so than I would like the pull from 90 cards, because I feel like if you can pull from 90 cards, that's going to get closer and closer to the experience of constructed. So this reroll tokens, and maybe 5 is too many, maybe you get 2 or 3. So it's a smaller boost in power, but it does just let you, get rid of those like really, really bad 3 choices. So maybe it's just a couple more rerolls, but I'd rather just that little boost in power instead of bringing it like that way. It just stays as the arena experience, which is a lot different than constructed. I just don't want too much homogenization in game modes.
Yeah, but it wouldn't actually be as close to constructed as you might think, because you're not getting offered 90 cards of that like put in constructed style combos necessarily. The interesting thing about the 90 cards things is you'd get 3 legendaries to pick from, what I mean, and you could put all 3 in, right? Like there'd be some really interesting stuff there, because when you get offered legendaries you get 3 of them,
3 at a time.
Like there'd be some weird choices to make and stuff. But if you've ever played like limited in Magic or in other games like that, like just the fact that you have a card pool to choose from means it can never be like constructed. Like it just never gets there.
It's
right?
not. It really isn't close. In any way, shape, or form.
It's,
you can even
close. It would be closer than what Arena is now.
I'm not
but if
saying
you,
it would be the same as.
I feel like
if you would bring it closer.
I feel like if you operate under the slippery slope argument, being like any closer is bad, then you really stifle any chance for creativity or progression.
I would just like to see all of these options be available, right? So you can have Classic Arena, and then you can have like Sealed, and then you can have like True Draft, and you can I would like to see all of that because I really feel like the game can support it. We have enough players. The queues would not take forever. Like I was playing a card game with way fewer players last night and clicking the queue button, and it was fine. We found matches, right? It was so Hearthstone with they have the advantage of
millions of
40
players.
million players or whatever it is, right? And let's give us more options and more things to do because we can support it.
No, I'm kind of at that point too, where I feel like they'll never. It almost feels like they're afraid to change Arena. I have nothing to go off of, right? But we've seen nothing of interest added to Arena.
Well, the nerfs was the last thing. Arena is different now just because these new cards have really shaken things up.
Yeah, but feature-wise, I mean...
But feature-wise, yeah, absolutely.
That's always Team 5's retort, right? For anything, whether we're asking for more features in Hearthstone in general or more features in Arena, they're like, well, we always add new cards. And it's like, no, that is the bare minimum you have to do as the maker of a card game. It is the literal bare minimum. So I as someone who doesn't think they'll ever... I think it is too scary, and I understand that fear to make a permanent change feature-wise to Arena. I would like to hit the Arena button and see multiple different ways of playing limited Hearthstone.
Yeah.
That's my
from
fix.
Arena to say limited, and then once I click it, there's Classic Arena, Sealed, Draft, whatever else they come up with.
Yeah, look what they've done with the Solo Adventures button. Like I point to that as my proof of concept that currently exists in Hearthstone. There's a ton of crap under that button that you can go and do now. A ton. So why can't we have that in Arena? Why can't we have a more nuanced, a more strategic version of Arena rather than, like you said, Dill's like, well, hope I have a good curve deck.
Yeah, it really is like, I've been playing a lot of Arena lately because one of the things we're doing on the 12 Dills of Christmas is I'm doing one Arena run a night, right? At least one Arena run.
That's cool.
And so I've been doing it, and as I'm drafting, it's just kind of it's nice because Mage isn't really the top of the heap anymore. They've definitely been caught up with a little bit. Like Warlock has gotten really good. Abyssal Enforcer is amazing. Priest has gotten much better just with a couple of the cards that they got offered now. So there's a lot more, at least variety as far as the classes you're playing against. But what has not changed is just the style of Arena play, right? Which is, I hope I play minions on curve, and I hope that they're slightly better than my opponent's minions on curve, and if I do that, I win, right? That's unfortunate, and it's why I think a lot of people give Arena a shake and then eventually get kind of tired of it and go back to Constructed, where there's like interesting things to do, right? Mm-hmm. Arena is just kind of, I'm just playing dudes, like, how much mana do I have? Well, this dude costs 3. I'll play him. So that's kind of unfortunate because that's not how it works in like limited Magic, right? Like in limited Magic, you like see your cards, you're like, okay, what can I build with this? What can I, and there are certain aspects where I have to just put in strong dudes and strong removal, but at least I can then find like, oh, this card works really well with this card. I will put both of them in. And you don't really get that in Arena. So
yeah, no, and that to Jocelyn, you're concerned of it kind of homogenizing and making it too much like Constructed. I mean, you still find yourself a lot in like sealed environments, like in Magic, and we've even had sealed Hearthstone tournaments. Like you still find yourself having to make less than optimal cards work for you. Sure. Yeah. Which is the draw of limited in a lot of ways too. Is you play with cards that don't see play in Constructed, right? The 4/3 hired gun, right, with taunt. Mm-hmm. Never gonna make it into any Constructed deck ever. Nope. But man, that's a pretty good card in Arena. Like when I see that, I'm kind of excited because it'll trade up a lot of times. It'll allow me to get lethal. It's a decent card, right? So you just see cards that you don't get to see in Constructed is nice. But Arena is like so fun, and yet
like not good enough to stand up for whatever 3.5 years or whatever it's been, right? Like we're still doing the same thing, man. Give me something more.
Yeah. Wow, is that how long it's been? Holy crap.
Yeah, I know, and it's just been the same thing. This is what it is.
Yeah, want another mode. Just get another mode. I want to hit arena, and then it slides over, and then there's a couple options. It's all good. We can keep arena the way it's been. Just give us
classic arena. Yeah, and then new arena.
Arena Plus, or I don't even know. We can come up with some kind of Hearthstone name.
Arena 0.0, Arena 0, Arena, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. New Coke, doesn't matter.
Crystal Hearthstone? No. Alrighty, Jocelyn, what's our final? Oh, this comes from the TAC subreddit at tacpodcast.reddit.com.
It does. This one comes in from Buckhead, who says, "Greetings and congratulations." That was an interesting word there. Thanks for that.
It's a take on salutations.
Salutations, I thought so too, but there, yeah.
Hospitalizations. Okay. All right.
So he says, "I consider myself something of a mediocre Hearthstone player. That's not false modesty. That's just me knowing my limitations. Well, I just hit rank 5 for the first time ever, and I did it with Shaman. Here's the point I think that bears discussing. If someone like me could make it to rank 5 and maybe beyond, then I wonder how many other mediocre players there are taking up space between here and Legend. Maybe now is the time for good players to make their push for that coveted card back. Or is that bad cricket? I don't really know what that means, but I think bad like manners, I guess, maybe. Taking advantage of less skillful player pool, skillful player pool, Jocelyn does words, just because they got a boost from an unstable meta. Then again, maybe I'm just full of beans, an outlier, a dude who went crazy on a crazy luck streak who's about to face reality. That'll be fun." So what do you guys think, first and foremost, about just the power level of Shaman and how if you basically know how to pilot one deck, then you're set on the ladder? Is that the way it's always been?
No, I mean, definitely when there's new cards out, if you just play a tried and true deck, you will do better than normal because a lot of people are out there messing around with things that might not actually be that good. So, like if you just play mid-range Shaman when all the new cards came out, you probably won a lot of games, right? Because everyone else was like, "I'm trying to make Jades," and you're like, "Well, I'm smashing your face in."
Yeah, you would beat me because I'm trying to learn Miracle Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that definitely happens, and that could definitely be what it is. But there's another thing too here, and that's the later in the season you get, the more quote unquote mediocre players are at rank 5 because they just took that long to get there. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to push for Legends, it's definitely easier to do that on the 26th of the month than like the 5th, right?
Well, I was going to say kind of from the 15th to like the 25th, 26th is the time, because then all the Legend players have pushed up through all those ranks at the beginning of the month, and no one's trying hard at the end of the month yet. So it's that kind of like middle ground there. Where
that very last few days, though, everyone's playing perfect meta decks, and they're playing whatever the best one is because they're all trying to like rush to Legend at the end or something.
Well, see, that's the thing. So you have to stop by like the 25th or 26th of every month and just let them have their push at the end, kind of final days.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's like a beautiful 10 days in the middle there where you can get some climbing done.
And I'm not sure, is it easier, or is it just it should take you less games, really, is what it boils down to, right? Because you don't have the reset, you don't have high level people back in the teen ranks. I'm not sure it's necessarily easier. It's certainly less of a time investment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I mean, yeah, you should have a higher win rate because the players you're facing are just not as perfect players, right?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna make more mistakes. So that is technically easier. It's not like a huge percentage point.
Yeah,
you'll probably like win 62% as opposed to 60% or something like that, right?
Yeah, but I think we've said on the show in the past, right, that if Legend is really your goal, you should just be logging games every day from the beginning of the month.
Yeah, if Legend is your goal, you shouldn't wait because you're just gonna have to cram more games in to those last days.
At the end, yeah.
You really should. If that is your goal, you should just start on day 1 and play whatever amount of games your session is. I had a guy actually come to my stream the other night, and he was like, "I have terrible ladder anxiety, and I don't know what to do." And we were kind of talking about it for a little bit, and then finally I was like, maybe you just need to set a goal that's not, I need to go up 3 ranks today, but your goal is I need to play 15 games today, right? And that's all that you care about. My only goal is log 15 games, and then the results are whatever they are, right? And if you do that, then suddenly like you achieved your goal, whether or not you went up or down in ranks, right? So
that is really hard. Speaking as someone who has a lot of ladder anxiety myself, it's really hard to switch your mindset just because of the way that the ladder works and the client works and everything else. You get so rewarded for wins. There's fireworks, there's stars, everything else. Like there's a lot of emphasis on wins. And even the way the quests work up until we got the new sets of quests with the new expansion. But for a long time, they rewarded, win 3 with warrior, win 3 with shaman. Like, so, there's so much emphasis on wins. It can be really hard to actually switch your mindset and how you think about the game when you are a player with ladder anxiety and who does struggle with this just because of the way that Hearthstone and the ladder works. I find it really hard. Sometimes I'll even get to like 12 games and I'll be like, okay, I've won 8 and lost 4. I should just stop because like I don't want to play my last
your game goal.
And so it's really hard to switch your goals and switch how you feel when you're on the ladder.
But to be honest,
it's great advice, but
life is hard. Like things are hard, right? Like things are just hard. Like if you want an easy thing, like you got to play something else probably. And that sounds like harsh, but like when you're playing a PvP only game, like there's another person on the other side trying to win too, and like that's what this game is, like always. There's the PvE options are we've talked about this. You go in and you get your cards, you get the hell out, right? That's how it's going to be. So whenever there's like another person on the other end, like there's always going to be a challenge there. So like it's tough, but that's why I suggested that, because then you kind of take that out of it. You take the results out, and then suddenly it's just about like doing reps, right? It's like kind of like now you're like going to the gym, right? Like so rather than like going to the gym being like, oh, I want to bench 400 today, you're just like, I'm just going to go to the gym and do whatever I can do, the best I can do, right? And like if you and yes, it's hard, but it's like you just got to try to do that, and then over time, like you just suddenly go, oh, it's just another game, like, and then suddenly like you look back and you're like, oh, my results were good today, awesome. Like you'll have those like kind of breakthrough fun moments, but it's not easy, but it's like a PvP game, never going to be that easy.
So then the second part of the post is basically asking if taking advantage of less skillful player pool is that bad in any way, shape, or form.
Hell
and
no,
I say,
man.
No, take every advantage.
Yeah. When the other guy DCs, you just start smashing face as fast as you can.
Yeah, like exactly.
I mean, look,
it's a PvP game.
You got to take the bits where you can get them, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
well, because if the situation was flipped and you got DC'd, like they're not going to sit there and go, "Oh, I better wait until my opponent returns."
Exactly.
That's not happening.
A lot of tournaments you play in, it's a rule. Like if you DC, you just lose the game. They just move on. There's too many people to make exceptions. So it is what it is. And yeah, I mean, just to back up what you were talking about, Dills, because I struggle with it. At the end of the day, if you do just set a goal and you just hit that goal, like you're just on autopilot. At a certain point, it's no longer like at a certain point you kind of leave your ego behind. Like a callus develops over it. You're just like, I just gotta hit that 15th game. And not to say that
why must I have so many raw emotions?
Well, no, and not to say you're crazy, Jocelyn, because I am definitely more like you. I just think Dills is right.
Dills is right, and getting your games in is the most important thing. But I'm just saying it's so hard to turn it off.
No, because
you really got to break it down to like all of the things that you can control, and not all of the things you can't control, right? Like you can't control what the other guy does. So all you can do is I can make the best turn every turn that I can do, right? I can think through all the situations properly. I can't control the cards I draw. I can't control the cards he draws. I can't control how my opponent plays. Can't do any of that stuff. So if you can just like, you can even go further where it's not even like about how many games I play. It's about how many right decisions I make. And every time I make a correct decision, I kind of like give myself a star, like rather than the star of winning or losing, I'm just like, okay, I felt like I did all the right things that game. I still lost because of how the cards were drawn and how the opponent played. But I know And then if I didn't make the right decisions, I can then think about what I did wrong and how I can not do that wrong thing the next time, right?
Right. At the end of the day,
well, that's the biggest change I think I've been able to make is not getting so frustrated either by card draw or by random effects, although there are less random effects in the game now.
Yeah.
But like, for instance, earlier we were talking and I lost a game to a priest as playing as the druid, and I was down to 3 health, and I played my big combo turn, and then he thought stole my swipe, which was like the exact win condition, and it's just like, okay, there's literally nothing that I could have done. I played this game through perfectly, and I had 3 health, and he ended up with 4 damage by something he randomly stole from my deck. Like, that's the stuff that I used to get really upset about, and now I'm just like, I could not have played any better in that situation. So he just got lucky. And so not getting upset and salty about random effects or luck is actually helping me to move further on the ladder. Yeah.
It's absolutely.
Somebody in the chat has a great idea. Give yourself an M&M every time you make a good move.
I love M&Ms.
Well, I make a lot of right moves, so I'll be fat. Yeah, I mean, on the subject of tilt, like, really the only time you should actually be angry is when you screw up.
Is when you misplay.
When it's your fault. Yeah, like you said, Jocelyn, like you shouldn't get mad when randomness doesn't go in your favor. Obviously, it does feel bad. It feels bad for everyone. It's a natural reaction, but you shouldn't, because I think when Negrano was on, he's just like, you're just forgetting all those times luck went in your favor horribly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was playing Miracle right before the show up against a priest, and dropped the minion I'm forgetting the name of because I haven't seen it in probably a year. The 5/5 where its health or its attack is always equal to its health. The light spawn. Light spawn. He drops a light spawn. I haven't seen a light spawn in forever, and I'm in rank 8, and I'm just like, what? I have no way to deal with this right now. What do I do with this thing? And I have a swashbuckler in my hand. I'm like, wouldn't it be amazing if I got Shadow Word Death right now? And I dropped it, and poof, Shadow Word Death. So I'm the bastard in that scenario.
Sure, yeah, no, he's going, what?
Yeah.
He swashbuckled into death. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it is true. Like, try to remember the times it goes your way, but I think, again, more importantly, like, just try to remember, like, the moves you made and whether they were the right or wrong move, right? Because, again, like you said, Garrett, you can't control that stuff and getting mad at it. Like, you watch streamers, and they always get salty about the, like, 1 in 64 thing that went against them, right? But again, like you said, like, there's really no reason to be mad at that. That's just going to happen 1 out of 64 times, right? So
exactly.
The other 63 times, it'll be fine.
Yeah. The other 63 times, you were chilling. Yeah.
Be logical about it. Find your inner Spock.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
It's good. Yeah, I like that this conversation comes up, kind of from time to time here, because I think a lot of players, like, they need to hear it. A lot of people who listen to the show probably need to hear it. Ladder anxiety is a very real thing. I know a lot of people have it, but like, life anxiety is a real thing. So anything you're trying at, it's normal to feel anxious about it. So there are solutions. You just gotta kind of work for them a little bit.
My first mortgage payment is coming up.
Drugs.
I'm getting anxiety about it. Did you just say drugs?
Drugs and alcohol, best solution. We're just kidding, kids. No.
I meant like anxiety medication.
Oh, like prescribed.
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Because there's
telling all the kids out there to smoke a fatty.
No.
All right.
Not the kids.
Asterix. The comments and opinions of Jocelyn Moffat do not necessarily reflect that of the Angry Chicken as a whole.
Oh, man.
Wow. Okay, that went to a dark place.
Anxiety drugs. I really did.
There's no dark place those go either. Alrighty, well, and
you go to your doctor and you're like, Doc, I need something, man. Every time I queue up in Hearthstone, I feel really anxious. Do you got anything for me, Doc? Help me out.
Oh,
and in certain states in this union that we call the U.S., there's a certain thing they might prescribe depending on where you live. Well, okay, we need to move on from this and end the show. That's going to do it. Thank you, Hachikumo and Buckhead, for our emails/Reddit posts. We really do appreciate them. Thanks again to our patrons supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. in spite of all of the off-color jokes all three of us make. Thank you, guys. Thank you to our producers, Declan H. and Peter Williams. If you're dropping us 5-star reviews in the iTunes store, we really appreciate it. Thank you to Matt Jans, Ryan, no last name given, actually typed that out. Virtual Reality, who said, "We are the standard by which all Hearthstone podcasts will forever be measured," which is high praise. And also thank you to Dakota, no last name given. 2 people this week wrote out no last name given in their iTunes reviews. I found that amusing. Well, not
the amount of inside jokes that this podcast has is impressive.
It's really growing. It's really growing, and I get really excited when I have something to do with any of it because I feel like usually it's a Dills started joke. Usually. I still see 50-50 jokes, Dills. You haven't made
50-50 is everywhere.
You haven't made it.
I have a friggin' 50-50 emote in my
but you haven't made like you haven't alluded to that joke for I think like a year now.
Well, at this point now, like people don't even let me get away. If I say like something is like a 75% chance to happen, they're like, "No, it's not."
No, it's not 50-50.
Yeah, what are you talking about, dude?
Well, it's the 6.5 out of 10 in the Heroes community, right? Like it's just that. It's that now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 29 for sure.
Awesome. Well, you can follow the show on Twitter at TAC Podcast. We have swag that you can pick up. Go to shirts.amove.tv for the Angry Chicken or the Jobs Done t-shirt. You can also get a pint glass, a mug, a wine glass, and other custom etched glassware over at etched.amove.tv. Check that out. Also check out alphageekmedia.com for the live show. If you can't catch it on Twitch, it's available on virtually any device. But other than that, Dills, where can folks find your work?
I'm going to pimp a couple things. The 12 Dills of Christmas going on every night until, I believe, Friday when I travel to San Francisco. So come on by, twitch.tv/WillyDillsSF. And the other thing is 1-900 Wrestling, the podcast with me and Justin Robert Young. You can find that on, I think it's up on iTunes. I don't know. Justin said you were having some issues waiting on that approval. So
it takes a while.
It should be there. If it's not there now, it'll be there very soon. So you can check it out there.
Very cool. Jocelyn, how about yourself?
You can find me on Twitter and Twitch, but I just wanted to make one final reminder to everyone that they can go to bit.ly/TGI 2016 to support our Extra Life campaign. It goes towards the Children's Miracle Network. You can donate up until December 31st, and we're about $100 short of our $3,000 goal. So any support is appreciated, and even if you can't support us monetarily, please just share the link and then spread the word because it's a really great cause.
Absolutely. Go do that. Do it now. Right now. Whatever you're doing, unless it's hot coffee, drop it and do that. You can follow me on Twitter at Garrett Art. You can find all of the other podcasts over at amove.tv. Joss, you and I do have a WoW show now where we talk a lot about lore, but also news and other jazz. Check out For Azeroth for really, really nerdy Warcraft discussions. Like I can't stress enough how nerdy it gets. But anyways, other than that, amove.tv for everything else. And since this is the last show before the holiday weekend, have a fantastic holiday, Merry Christmas, or whatever specific holiday it is that you celebrate. Merry that holiday to you. Have a good one, everyone.
That thing.
Marry that thing. If I do a list, I'll leave something out and I'll feel bad. So my family does Christmas, so I am extending the cordial greeting that my family would to you. Thank you. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Hug someone you love. Thanks again to our sponsors, Harrys.com. Again, you can use the code TAC at checkout over at Harrys.com to get $5 off of your order. They still have that holiday box set up, so go check it out. Other than that, that's going to do it for this episode. Go craft Aviana if you're feeling spunky. But other than that, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.
Yes!
I love
that was a flyby. Yeah.